The last, was it 60 or 90 days of the campaign, you have to report all the names of all the donors to your campaign. So in other words, you can't have, Citizens for a Better America, P.O. Box 295, Billings, Montana, be the name of your donator.
Got it.
Right? And they can't donate to a super PAC that then just says, here's money. Okay, we have to know where every dollar came from. And that only in the last 60 or 90 days of the campaign.
Well, I don't think that only campaign should only be about 60 to 90 days, period.
Well, that's the way it is in most civilized countries.
This freaking idea of starting the campaign trail the day
after the election
elected, is bullshit, dude.
Yeah.
Because nothing gets done. I mean, everybody's vying for the next space or to save their ass in the next election. I mean, that's...
my dad told me at one time, he was flying to South America, the end of his career. And he said, I think it was in Ecuador, he was like, the election campaign is very, very short. The candidates stand up and say, this is what I stand for. None of them ever mention their religion or anybody else's religion or being inspired by some icon of that religion for any reason. And that's it. This is me. This is what I stand for. Now vote. And that's about it. And then, like England, their campaign it's like six or 8 weeks long or something.
That's I would love to kind of emulate that situation right there, even though, of course, who's prime minister now.
I know.
Well, they're just having a freaking some guy Boris Johnson or something like that.
Yeah, well, he's the Donald Trump of England. He really is, and proud to be.
The pendulum swing as the pendulum do. I mean,
the only thing I can say is it makes me feel a lot better to know that England, this country that I always held in high regard, is just as stupid as we are.
I think that the pendulum swing as the pendulum do, and people just get tired of being forgotten about. And I think that's the reason why you have Trump in office. And the reason why I got Trump in office is because both parties ran terrible freaking candidates. Period. I mean.
Yeah.
Absolutely abhorrent candidates.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything against Hillary's talent.
If out of all the people in the whole freaking Republican Party and all the people around all the freaking United States, if they couldn't come up with something better than Donald Trump, that says a lot.
Like my father-in-law always said, the cream and the scum float to the top.
Hey guys on YouTube, hey, welcome to the pre-show. And I'm sitting here with Weathered Soul Becky and Weathered Soul Bruce. And if you have been listening, and by the numbers, you haven't. And
but you should
we are here, which you should be, because you get to listen to us on the pre-show, and we'll be doing some after show stuff, which you can get on Patreon, and just so you guys know. And I was listening to something that was really interesting this morning. Not going back to the election thing, but we can go back to the election thing for a minute. But I would rather do that 6 to 8 week thing and have all that crap go on there. I mean, I would rather vote for 15 freaking candidates than have it come down to 2. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's ridiculous. It is totally ridiculous. And ranked choice voting has got to come into play, because you got to quit voting for the lesser of two evils. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I mean,
in most cases, yeah, especially as divided as we all are now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's not going to be. I don't see it, unless a miracle happens. I don't see a candidate that's going to appeal to everybody happening in probably the rest of our lives.
Tulsi Gabbard.
She doesn't appeal to everybody.
She appeals to me.
Yeah. Well, and what does that say? Poor lady.
I'm a conservative.
No, seriously though. Yeah, it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And I think that this turnstile, first of all, I don't think that the president should run by himself. I really don't. There's a couple of things that I would change if
Right.
I was in charge of the election, here's what I would change.
We should know who his cabinet is before he gets elected, I think.
Here's what I think. And this might sound weird, and I don't know if it's ever happened before, but I think that if you are a Republican and you're running for president, that you need to pick a independent or a Democratic running mate, and vice versa. If you are running for president as a Democrat or an independent, you need to pick a Republican as your running mate.
I think that has happened. I don't know where.
Happened too. I don't know either.
I don't know when.
Anybody out there who wants to chime in at the Bruce the Weathered Soul that'll take you to the Weathered Soul podcast site on Facebook. I'd love to know the answer to that. But I think something like that would make things, I don't know if it would make them more honest, because they're both freaking corrupt as hell, but that's just the way I think politics are these days. I would definitely go to ranked choice voting, to where we don't have to pick between the lesser of two evils. And I wouldn't get rid of the electoral college. I think the electoral college is fine. You can argue with me all you want with that one. I'm not going to change my voice on that one at all. I think it's we can't let them.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is
all right. It's there to protect the rural communities. Exactly. I mean, we know that. We know otherwise, New York and California will be picking all of our presidents.
Exactly.
And right.
We can't do that.
We can't do that.
No, we can't do that.
Even if that would be nice, we still can't do it. I should say, even if you think that might be nice.
I don't think it would be nice.
Yeah. And you gotta think too, back at when this was established, right? Because back then it would have been New York, Boston, and Philadelphia.
Right.
Would have been
right.
Making the choices.
Right. Exactly.
And so to protect the people in Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, they had to give them some sort of a lever.
We have to get rolling.
Rolling. Time to play the startup music.
Get off of my grass. Yes, you've got Bruce and Doug. We're both weathered souls, and we're here live. First No Production Studios in Gilroy, California. And it's the Mueller time. Yes, it's Mueller time. If you thought that you were going to tune into this podcast and not hear us talk about the biggest news of the week and the biggest bombshell, you can call it the biggest, I call it the biggest horse and pony show of all time, rivaling the Senate confirmation of Kavanaugh, and it's just what an abomination that I saw. I didn't see it. I heard about. Let's see. I was at lunch, so I heard an hour of it there. I kind of tuned in and out.
Yeah, I got to watch some of it.
Yeah, I got to watch some of it. I didn't watch all of it. I kind of apologized to the audience that I couldn't do that. But I'm always going to bring you truth and facts and data when it comes to that. And but because I didn't hear a whole lot of it, but I did hear some pretty good tidbits. And me and Dougie were kind of discussing it before we went on the pre-show, and we're going to discuss it now that we're out of the pre-show. But I want to welcome you guys to the Weathered Soul podcast. We do this every Thursday night. We're live from Gilroy, California. There's garlic in the air because we've got the Garlic Festival coming up this weekend, and it's a nice and warm and hot and everything else going on here. And we appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. You can grab the podcast at the Weathered Soul podcast.libsyn.com. You can go to Stitcher, you can go to iTunes, you can go to Google Play. You can also support the Weathered Soul podcast by going Patreon, to patreon.com, the Weathered Soul podcast, and you can get some extra content that you don't get on YouTube and that you do not get on the podcast. So you can go there for as little as $1. I can give you some extra content, and as you go up in your tiers there, I'll be offering you lots of other stuff like the shirt that Dougie's wearing with the Godzilla on it. Maybe I'd give that one away.
Dougzilla.
Dougzilla. But we got into an interesting conversation before I turned the camera on. And Dougie asked me what constitutes obstruction, and do I think that?
No,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's not what I asked.
Give me.
I said,
okay.
I am wondering what the words that the Republicans heard that make them say Mueller's testimony was a win for them.
And my answer was the word no. And when I said the word no, and I told you I don't remember what the senator was, but asked him straight out, Mr. Mueller, or Director Mueller, or whatever.
Doctor.
Call him Dr. Mueller.
Yeah.
At any time, did you stop the investigation? And his answer was no. That to me says there was no obstruction. Because, number one, they had, over 300 witnesses that came to testify. Now, whether they told the truth or not, that remains to be seen. They've got millions and millions of pages of documents that were delivered by President Trump and by others. I can argue with you all day about how many times that Trump had heard from Russian people and other dignitaries, whatever the case may be. But to tell you the truth, I don't believe a fucking word of any of the investigation and how it went forward, because I think the most important part of the whole report was what was not in the report. And I've talked this with many people before. They argue with me back and forth because they just think that I'm this staunch conservative, and then I'm this
either that or an idiot.
Yeah, or an idiot, or this Trump lover. And believe me, I'm not a Trump lover, but I want both sides of the story. Yeah. And you weren't getting both sides of the story.
Well, you're going with obstruction meaning a blockage, a stoppage.
Yep.
All right, and that's not what it means.
To me,
obstruction means interference. It means interference of any kind.
So what do you claim as interference? Where's the interference that you say that's coming from?
Anything. Yeah. I'm sorry. Unless if they capitulated to everything that the investigating team wanted. Show us this, show us this, show us this, show us this. Come talk to us. Put this on the record. Put this on the record. Put this on the record. Then I would believe everything was on the up and up, and they're being persecuted. But they're not. They're acting like belligerent children, and regardless, innocent or guilty, they need to get smacked for it. That's how I feel.
I feel the same way. Yeah. However, I want both sides of the story told. And like I said, you can argue with me all you want. I listen to Dan Bongino, and believe me, he's had the finger on the pulse of this investigation. And not only Dan Bongino, Jimmy Dore, who's a comedian of all people, has had their finger on this Russian collusion stuff and this obstruction case from all the way from the start. And nobody's talking about the other side, and nobody's talking about. I can hold up a piece of paper that says Mueller on it, okay? And it's easily for me to connect a dot from here to Trump, or from here to Comey, or from here to any place else. But there's a whole bunch of other little strings here that aren't attached to nothing, and they go to people. Okay? They go to people, and those people have to be accounted for. Now, I'm not going to get into the whatabouts and how and whys and whatever, but every one of those witnesses and every one of those people that had a something to do with it, whose ever name's on that paper, has a string that goes to them. And believe me, Dan Bongino and Jimmy Dore have the pulse on everybody that's involved in this situation, from everybody that's connected to Trump and all the Russians that are connected to whatever this big web is, down to where those strings, and I'm not going to mention any names because you probably figure out the names, but they do go to other people.
Well, you know
and
me.
There is evidence that is not being told to you by Rachel Maddow, by
definitely not.
Whatever Shepard Smith, by Joe, and because they're all playing the freaking corporate game, and they're all playing this narrative that they need to have. And that's just
they're going for the ratings, of course.
They're going for the ratings.
And once again, what I was gonna say was that you know me, and it's always about following the money. Who had money to gain? Who had money to lose? Right.
Yep.
all that stuff. Say goodnight to your son.
Good night, bub. Good night, buddy. Here's my son, Anthony. He come to give
He's
me
a good
hug.
boy.
He come to give me a hug. Come on, bud. Come on, you got to go in. Dad's doing a podcast.
See you later.
Bye, bud.
Yeah, so that's it, right? And that's what attracts me. And
It's not dark outside.
oh, I hate it when it's not dark out and you have to go to bed.
Yes.
So who had to gain, who had to lose? I keep coming back to the same thing. And the bottom line is, I'll be honest with you, I don't give a damn about collusion, obstruction. I give a damn about our election being interfered with, being meddled with in one way or another, not like it is in ways that it has never been before. And we know it has before. Okay, we have experience of it.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Absolutely.
we have evidence and proof.
Okay.
So we know it's happened before,
Okay.
but this has happened in a way because of technology and society in ways that it's never happened before. And that is what pissed me off. I'm sorry, man. Okay. China, North Korea, and Russia are not our friends.
Not at all.
Period.
Not at
And
all.
that's how I was raised.
But
That's what runs through my blood.
but that doesn't mean that you can't have or try to have relations with these countries or try to break the ice with them. Do I think something nefarious is going?
No.
Do I think that something is nefarious going on with between us and China, between us and North Korea, between us and Russia? Always.
I don't really care. Do you watch MASH?
I do watch man.
Do you see how the people live? Those little straw huts with dirt floors and no windows.
Beyond MASH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how most of the people in North Korea still live today.
Pretty sure it is.
And it's cold as hell in the winter and hot as hell in the summer.
Mhm.
And they've got no windows. They've got a curtain for a door. They have no heat. This is the way they live.
Yeah.
Okay, in a country that can build missiles and shoot them off like
Yeah.
we do bottle rockets.
Yeah.
That's a big. I am.
But
with every fiber of my body against that sort of behavior.
so you would have been just as
Insulted, whether
it be
even if
Obama,
Clinton
whether it
went
been
there.
Obama,
Yes.
Clinton, or anybody. You
Yeah.
would have been just as
Yeah.
insulted.
I was pissed
I
off.
don't know,
I was
man. I
pissed off when I was this tall. I was pissed off when Nixon went to China.
Well, you see, I'm one of those peaceable guys that want to knock on your door and say, "Hey, how you doing? Here's a cupcake. Let's sit down and talk. Hey, how about a beer?"
And I'd say, I'm not talking to you till you stop beating your kids.
I don't beat my kids.
But that would be the situation if it were with them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So, getting back to the Mueller thing, I want to ask you one question. Well, first of all, I want to ask you two questions. So we're talking about Russian meddling into the election. Okay. So under whose watch?
Under whose watch?
Yeah.
Well, we were warned that Russia was meddling in our election.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we had an impotent president because we had a Congress that wouldn't do anything he said.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, he wouldn't better off saying the Russians aren't meddling in our election.
Yeah.
Then maybe Mitch McConnell would have done something.
Okay, so that's one of the points that I wanted to run about. Also, with the obstruction thing, is I wanted to ask a very important question because a lot of people, still think that this was obstruction. Jim Comey,
Right?
do you think the firing of Jim Comey was obstruction?
Well, I think it was a dirty move. So it could be obstruction. All right, because of the fact that he fired him and he wanted to fire the next guy, he probably would have wanted to fire the next guy. Anybody who was investigating him was on the chopping block.
And would you not act the same way?
Not if I had nothing to hide. I would say,
think-
open it up, buddy. Here it
I
is.
think
Find something. I dare you.
I think they all have something to hide.
Well, yeah, that's a problem,
Anybody.
isn't it?
So that's the problem that we have. And once we get back into that situation where we get some people in there with lots of integrity or more integrity than the people that we've had in there lately. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tout that Lord Obama was the freaking pride and shining star that we needed for the United States. I think
I think he could have done a lot for us if he had a Congress that would have worked with him.
I think a lot of people would have had a lot of things if the Congress would
Yeah.
work within the
Absolutely.
confines of the Congress and stop playing political games. Or I don't want to say political games. Stop playing partisan games. And I think that's the problem. Nobody knows how to do partisanship anymore. You can sit there and you can say that Biden can do partisanship. He was back in the
It wasn't there. If they could have said, yeah, all right, we'll give this program a try.
Congress.
And if we don't like it, then, when you guys are out of power, we'll just pull it out. Like, the ACA and all that stuff.
Congress has so much more power than they want to use and want to yield. Just because when it all said and done, if the president vetoes a bill that they said he was going to sign, they can always come back and they can, undo the veto, challenge the veto, and they can get it through.
Mm-hmm.
And which push comes to shove, you throw it to the Supreme Court, which is the least thing that I want to have done ever. But I mean, there's ways to get it done. And, the presidents of the United States, any president that I'm talking about right now, cannot just legislate by the pen. It's just, it is one of those things that's just becoming too much of a norm. And it just should be hard to do anything. Our government should have a hard time doing, they're having a hard time doing everything. But the fact is that they're not playing partisan politics. They're not playing to the representation of the citizen. They're playing the reputation or the game of who is their donors and who is who's more important to them on Capitol Hill and not who's important to them here at home. And that's the problem. That's a huge problem.
It is a huge problem. And the only way that we can correct that is by voting the bastards out.
Right.
And get the squad in.
The problem is that
then where are we?
Not too fond of the squad either, but that's for another show.
Well, they're still young. Give them a chance.
A couple of them are just going to be one-termers, but that's just the way it is. Hey, Facebook lost control of our data. You know that. And
I don't care. Oh, mine's 5 years old.
But you haven't been on Facebook in a long time. But I've got a bone to pick because I was listening to Jason Stapleton this morning, which is I normally do on my way to work. I'll listen to some of his stuff, and I wanted to talk about corporations and how corporations work in DC. And I think we've had this conversation before, where they actually lobby the government to make regulations on themselves to reduce competition out there for themselves, and that makes way for making them more powerful and no competition. Now, that being said and done, what happens is that sometimes you get an antitrust suit, or somebody did something wrong. You get so big, now you got big influencers on your board of directors, and you're shaking hands with presidents and other dignitaries around the world, such as Facebook does, and every once in a while you're gonna cross a line somewhere, and you get your hand slapped. Well, Facebook got its hand slapped for a $5 billion fine because it lost control of the data, and now it's paying a record $5 billion fine. So CNET,
which is less than a parking ticket for you and me.
Which is less than a parking ticket for you and me. It's just a drop in the bucket for them. Facebook is notching a record breaker. A record breaker. The Federal Trade Commission on Wednesday announced that Facebook agreed to pay a $5 billion fine over privacy violations and its failure to inform tens of millions of users about data leak that happened years ago. The fine is the largest in the U.S. regulator and has levied against a tech company. The settlement will require Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, as well as other designated compliance officers, to certify that the company is taking steps to protect the user privacy. A false statement could potentially expose them to penalties. The order also removes some of Zuckerberg's control over privacy decisions by creating an independent privacy committee on the company's board of directors. Jeez. I don't have a problem with anything that has been levied against Facebook other than the way that Facebook had it done for them. They knew this was going to happen, and they knew it was going to happen. But what bugs me is the $5 billion, because I've not seen my check yet.
Right.
And you haven't seen your check yet.
Right.
And I'm sure that everybody listening to this podcast and those who aren't listening to this podcast and the millions of users on Facebook have not seen a check yet.
The $5 billion is going to go to pay for the commission that levied the fine.
It goes into the government coffers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we got a wall.
And not only does Facebook have to pay for this $5 billion fine, Facebook ain't going to pay $1 of that $5 billion fine. You know who's going to pay that fine?
Yes.
I'm going to pay that fine.
You certainly
know
are.
why?
Because their profits aren't going to go down by $5 billion. I promise you.
Because I advertise on Facebook, and believe me, I might only spend X amount of dollars to advertise this podcast, but they will adjust that dollar amount to go to less people, which means it's going to cost me more money
to cover the same area,
to compensate the same area.
Yep.
So no company in this United States, corporation, small company,
right.
Your mom and pop down the street, your 7-Eleven, your dairies, your egg farmers, your dog, your veterinarian, nobody pays taxes. You know who pays those taxes? You pay taxes.
Right.
Okay. You pay taxes because, and you're going to pay their taxes because they're going to pass any legislation that's passed against them on to the price of their product.
Right. When I bid a job, the total bid price includes any and all taxes.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
I'll be right back.
It's not coming out of my profit.
Right.
Right. I mean, otherwise I'd make nothing.
Right.
Right. You know? So
yeah. Because if your price to do business is going to go up, you're not going to absorb that price. I'm not going to absorb the price. I mean, I have to absorb all the prices right now for this podcast, but
in some instances it does happen.
Not a lot of instances.
Not a lot, but in some cases it does happen where they can't pass the new expense on, and then they go out of business.
Yes, but that doesn't apply to PG&E.
No, because they can pass the expense on. They have a whole government agency protecting them.
Because they just got passed or asking the PUC again for another price hike.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to come up very soon.
Right.
Which means within the next 5 years, you're going to be paying another $20 a month for electricity.
Right.
Why? Because they went bankrupt because of the fires in Northern California.
Well, they're punishing us for making them liable for the fires.
Yeah.
It's like, you want electricity? Then don't blame me if it burns down your house.
Well, it sounds to me that the antitrust suits have to go to some place like that because PG&E is the only show in town, man.
Well, that's the thing too. They're not just the only show in town. They get to make their own rules.
Yeah.
Right? They get to make their own rules. They get to decide what's safe.
Well, because that's
from where the wire goes into your house, at the weatherhead, all the way to the generator. They are in 100 and complete control, 100% complete control of that. They make their own rules. If the science says, well, you can't do that, it's not safe, things are going to catch on fire, they can still do it if they want.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely right because that's just the way things are. It's such a situation that it frustrates me that somebody like PG&E can go to the POC, and they've been in bed with them for years, and every single time that they ask them for a rate hike, they get it.
Well,
it's never a no.
Yeah, no.
It's never a no.
No, because otherwise they're going to say, well, then we can't make electricity for you.
Well, then somebody else needs to step in, and the free market needs to step in and do it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what has happened between the power companies, because I'm sure that all the power companies in every state have come together in some kind of conglomeration and have said that, well, we stick together and we're going to protect ours.
You know which state has the most power companies?
Who has the most power
Texas.
companies?
Texas has hundreds of individual power companies. It's like these little towns, these little cow towns in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. They got a diesel generator and they've got their own. It's their own power plant.
And I think the situation needs to be like that. I mean, I think we need to open up the free market on stuff like this. I mean, it's one of those things that's it's going to drive prices down. You're going to get better quality service. You're going to get those people that are corrupt, and you're going to get those people that are the what's his name in It's a Wonderful Life.
Bailey and, and Potter.
Yeah, you're going to get the
old man Potter.
You're going to get the old man Potters and stuff like that, and then you're going to have the Baileys too. So I mean, the situation has to go back to a free market principle in that situation, because this is what we're getting in California, and I'm sure it's that way in a lot of states that just have a singular power source to do their power distribution.
The other thing is too, is our rates are some of the highest in the country,
and I respect.
Why is our electricity so much more expensive?
I respect the fact that a pioneer went out there who put up the poles and the wiring for the first electricity that was done in California. Hallelujah for that guy. Great. Fantastic.
Oh, he made his money back. Don't worry.
He made his money back for sure. But the situation somewhere in between him being a small guy doing this and that, or Baron or whatever he was, somewhere in between there, something got lost, and the free market went away on that. And there's something wrong with that. And Bernie Sanders sits there and talks about monopolies and talks about these big cats, these fat cats. We need to tax them and everything, but he never talks about. He talks about the big corporations. I don't hear him talking about PG&E. I don't think he's talking about PG&E.
I doubt that's in his
huge,
spotlight.
But they're huge corporations. I mean, the biggest corporation in the freaking world is the U.S. government. I mean, but they're making up where their money.
Right.
So I mean, you can't tax.
They don't produce a product unless. Yeah.
They can't tax the tax.
Yeah. They don't produce a product unless you count dead people.
They cannot tax a tax. That's something I did hear today, which was really good, and I'm really happy to hear about it. Is that I'm all about the states. I'm not going to make it not known that I pretty much hate our government. Really, I really do. I think our government's too big. I think it employs too many people. I think we pay too much taxes. I think that we have gone away from the original intent that government was supposed to be, and I think people have forgotten how to live with a small government, and at the same time be charitable, and at the same time be thrifty, at the same time be fiscally responsible. That being said, when the 13 colonies got together and made the United States of America, every state was still a sovereign state until the Civil War, when people wanted to succeed. And then, of course, nobody wanted that, or not nobody wanted that, but the North didn't want that, and they won the war. And, we know the history on that. However, I still see the sovereignty of the state as overpowering. And we had this kind of discussion last week about whose law is more supreme. Is it the federal law? Is it the state law? Is it the county? Is it the city? Is it the whatever? Well, California and the four major automakers in the nation, defied Trump and agreed to tighten emission rules. So California's EPA happens to be one of the strongest EPAs, Environmental Protection Agencies, in the world. Yeah. In the world. We have more stringent.
Well, when we moved out here, so we moved out here, a little over 20 years ago. And, we brought one of our cars. I bought my car in Massachusetts, and we want to bring it out here. So we had to check to make sure that it would meet California emissions. Of course it did. Of course it did. If you want to sell cars in this country, you got to be able to sell them in California. So you're not going to make special ones just for California. You're going to make them all the same.
They used to. I mean, there was a time when they used to make the special car for Texas, and the special car.
Maybe with the special colors, or a different engine or something. Yeah.
When you came here, you had to put the air pump on, or whatever it was at the time. But so this is out of Reuters, and the four major automakers said on Thursday that they have reached an agreement with the California on fuel efficiency rules, bypassing Trump's administration's effort to strip the state of the right to fight climate change by setting its own standards. I'm going to roll my eyes on climate change. California and other states have vowed to enforce stricter Obama-era had vowed to enforce the stricter Obama-era emission standards after President Donald Trump proposed rolling them back. The federal rules. Automakers have worried that the court battles between the state and the federal governments would create years of uncertainty for manufacturers, which they were very smart to do, because once you started getting into court, you don't know what kind of freaking cars to make, and all of a sudden you're not selling cars because California says you're not going to make that. We're not going to let you sell that car. Environmental groups had mixed reactions to the California Compromise, which is voluntary for the automakers and not legally binding. The plan is more stringent than Trump's proposal, but looser than that of the Obama-era rule. California, the most populous U.S. state, accounts for about 12% of the U.S. vehicle sales, and if the administration recognizes that the deal that it would allow automakers to operate under one set of rules. Ensuring that the American vehicles are efficient, safe, and affordable is a priority for us. All Ford Motor Company, Volkswagen, Honda said in a joint statement, and they all could help maintain a nationwide set of fuel efficiency requirements. So my take on it is that I've always thought, and we had, like I said last week, if you would have tuned in last week, we were talking about, states and states need to make priorities about what kind of services they're going to do environmentally, or actually what kind of rules are they going to make for their state. And I think the environment is very important. I'm not a proponent of climate change. We can sit here and debate that again, and beat that dead horse to death again. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not,
okay. I don't care if you want to be wrong. It's all right with me.
I'm not an idiot and say that we don't impact the climate, because we do.
We certainly do.
The bees impact the climate. The ants and everybody impacts the climate. However, I'm not a proponent that we're doing drastic problems with our climate. Anyway, back to.
But we are. We certainly are.
Okay, Dougie.
I wanted to talk about that.
Let's talk about that. So anyway, let's
record heat waves around the world.
I like that, record heat waves around the world. It's weather.
Yeah,
it's weather.
Yeah, it's weather. Yeah,
So,
but that's abnormal weather. That's
sure
abnormal weather.
Are you sure that we haven't had heat waves before 186 years ago, when we started keeping climate data that says that we haven't had heat waves like this before? Or are we going to
yes, they can see that. They can see that in the plant records, in the fossil records, in the carbon records. They can see it in the rocks. They can see it in the dirt.
Sure. Well,
yeah.
CO2 levels were much, much, much higher than they were now, than they were, let's say 1 billion years ago.
Well, yeah, before plant life came to take the CO2 out.
100,000 years ago.
Yeah. Well, no,
Okay.
it wasn't.
I'm still saying.
Yeah.
So the world has manipulated itself in one way or the other to either increase the CO2 or decrease the CO2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're not contributing to the CO2 in the atmosphere.
We are, and it's a greenhouse gas, and it's making it hotter.
Okay, it's making it hotter.
Yes.
So enjoy your summer, England and France, and you cloud guys. But the EPA, each state, I don't think the federal government has a right, I don't think that they have a right to dictate the national environmental protections of every state, because every state has a different environment that they have to protect. Now, we do have to protect this area that we live in, okay, this global area that we live in, but we are much farther ahead than many of 90% of the countries that are here in being able to control our pollution. I mean, we do a much better job.
No, we don't.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. Believe me, I went up and down this coast this weekend. I went up and down this coast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was surprised at what I didn't see. And I remember we've been to Hawaii, and you know that my biggest thing was the pollution. And when we were flying over the ocean, I was showing you the great big plastic raft that we have out there.
Yeah.
And how bad it is. And believe it.
Well, you can swim through it.
Yeah,
it's not that bad.
But I also complimented Kauai when we were in Kauai about how clean it was.
Yeah.
And when I was up and down the coast this weekend, I took the liberty of actually looking around in the environment, looking at everything, and I was surprised on how clean it was. It really was, except for Santa Cruz, Capitola, some of those places that are really hit big by the tourists and where you can't get a spot on the beach. Yeah, you can go at the end of the day and go like, holy shit,
What a bunch of fucking
what a bunch of
pigs.
freaking bunch
Yeah.
of pigs. But we went on some of the lesser known beaches and stuff like that. And I was actually looking for trash. I was looking for bottles and plastic and stuff like that. I didn't find any.
Yeah.
And I was completely stunned. I thought for sure I was going to go try to find what do they call beach glass that Michael Gaither goes and gets,
Yeah. The kind of frosted stuff.
Yeah, kind of frosted stuff. Couldn't find any.
Well, make your own.
The tide pools were beautiful and everything like that. And it was really an enjoyable freaking ride up. So I think that we do a much better job of taking care of our environment than a lot of countries do. I've seen the data.
Next time, drive up the Central Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
talk.
Well, there's
Talk.
plenty of garbage.
Talk.
It's garbage all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I can drive down.
Garbage on the sides of 101.
I can drive down Monterey Road and see where everybody has dumped off their furniture from the last move that they did.
Yeah, exactly. Which brings up something too. You're talking about recycling a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And how ridiculous. Oh, you can't put it in a plastic bag.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, still do it.
Let me tell you something. Don't even bother anymore.
Why is that?
I think it was on the Daily Show. Maybe it was a Daily Show. Anyway, they had a segment where they were showing that all of our recycling we've been sending overseas, like to Asian countries where they have the manpower to sort it, pick through it, reuse it, and sell it back to us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? They're becoming affluent enough off of selling us back our garbage that they don't need the job of picking through our garbage anymore, and they're sending the raw garbage back. And the reason why they're sending it back is because they don't have people to like take the plastic water bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
She throw in the recycling, take the cap off it, cut that little ring off of it, cut this off of it, and then throw this plastic into one recycling bin and this plastic into another recycling bin. Because this is on this, it makes the whole thing worthless.
But you told me that there was little machines that did that.
Yeah, little machines, people.
So what about
so now they're sending it back to us.
So what about my big black
It's going to come back to you. It's going to come back to you, and it's going to go into a landfill here.
And meanwhile, they're telling us that they're going to fine us if we don't put our trash in the right receptacles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's their next legislation. I've heard it starting to go through into the state that's what they want to do.
No, because what they're going to have to do is they're going to have a recycling bin with like 15 containers in it.
Well, it's real Californian to do, those things.
Yeah. Hey, listen, look, in a lot of states, like recycling in some places is something you have to go out of your way to do. Right. Well, I mean, yeah, it's a huge inconvenience to recycle. It's like, oh man, I'm a hippie, man. Check me out. I'm recycling.
Yeah,
well,
I don't remember my grandparents doing a whole lot of recycling, other than the fact that I guess I've heard that in the Depression era, people learned how to recycle just because out of the fact that they had to.
Well,
because you needed that stuff. You just couldn't get rid of something that might be worth something later because you don't know if you're ever going to get it again.
Right. You know me.
Right. I mean, all you got to do is look at my garage and know that I don't recycle too much.
Yeah. Look at this little piece of metal on the side of the road. Oh, that's cool. I'm going to keep it.
But it's very California, to do the recycling. It's very California.
Yeah. Well, I've always been like that. I think it's an East Coast thing too.
Yeah.
Look, when I was a young kid, we'd swim in Long Island Sound, and then all of a sudden, during my high school years, Long Island Sound was too polluted to swim in.
Yeah.
You go in there, you get poisoned, you die.
Yeah, there's a lot of
now it's cleaned up, and you can eat fish out of it, and you can swim in there again.
Yeah, well, now you can't swim in too many places without getting that brain-eating amoeba that they got going on.
Yeah, those amoebas eat everything. Almost killed my dad.
I'm telling you what, I think you're hearing more about it now just because we're at the age where we get 24-hour freaking saturated
No, it's
news.
different. It's different, man. Look,
You think it's more?
yeah, I was talking to somebody just the other day. They said, they've lived on the same property for like 3 generations. When they were kids, they'd go swimming in the creek. They drink the water out of the creek, all that stuff. So now they can't even let the dogs go swimming in the creek because they get sick.
Oh yeah, the dogs. I mean, this
kids can't go near it.
Cytoplasma and freaking stuff that's going on with the algae around here. It's just getting, you kill your dog in a minute.
Yeah,
and then
that has nothing to do with it getting warmer, though.
The brain, it might not. That is Dougie, our green guy.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to adopt a new attitude too. It's something that my brother told me.
Dougzilla.
Yeah, he's a professor, and he's talking to students, and he's explaining stuff to them. And if they don't agree with him, he just looks at them and say, "I don't care if you want to go through life being wrong. Fuck you. See ya."
That is too funny. Too funny.
Well, it's the truth. It's like if you don't want to look at the facts. And I'm sorry, I was originally indoctrinated into the Earth Day, that sort of plant a tree shit.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in 4th grade.
Okay.
Save the wolves. All right. Save the Eskimos. I mean, we had a whole year where all we did was study Eskimos and their society and how they survive and how they make igloos and, how they treat their kids and their dogs and what they eat and all that shit.
And we're still banging seals on the head. So I mean,
there's no igloos left.
What did that do for us?
There's no igloos left.
Well, we're still banging freaking seals on the head.
Well, we're not. Well, I'm not.
Well, you don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore.
No, seriously though. The world has changed.
The world is going to change. The world is always evolving, and whatever's been on this world is not going to be in this world in another 100,000 years. I mean, that's just the way it is.
It's going to be a lot less than that.
And I think that, well, if it's a lot less than that, if it's even only 50 years, or 12 years,
and that's the thing too.
Ocasio-Cortez says, but
and it's not save the planet, dude. It's save your own ass.
It's save your own ass because the planet's going to be here long after we're gone.
Yeah.
And
the planet could turn to Venus. It's still going to be here.
Yeah, it's still going to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then
it could turn to Mars. It's still going to be here.
It's still going to be here.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
And if and that's the way it's going to be because as the sun gets hotter, we're going to forget about how much CO2 and ozone there is. As the sun starts,
I'm trying my best to suck up all the sun that I can in my freaking solar panels. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to suck up all the sunlight that I can, and maybe to make it cooler. I think it's making it hotter, but that's just the way it is.
You know what I heard today too?
What's that?
In Arizona, the sunniest state in the country, has the least solar in the country because their power company, what's it, APS? Yeah, I think it's APS or APS. Yeah,
don't make me
lobbied
mad.
their
Don't
government.
Make me mad.
Lobbied their government to make it so you have to pay. You have to pay a tax to put solar panels on your roof.
That is so wrong.
Yeah,
and PG&E
that's corporate
doing the same thing.
That's corporate owning the government.
They used to not have to. They weren't charging you for your meter, and all of a sudden, everybody's going to solar now. They're charging me for my meter, my smart meter. They came out with the smart meter, and able to make me pay a little bit more of the stuff that I'm not paying them because I have my solar panels on. Thank you very much, Mr. Solar Doug.
Well, you would be, well, that's the thing too. You pay all those friggin' fees and taxes and crap whether you have solar or not.
Yeah, exactly.
But and then also charging $145 to process the net metering agreement, which is all electronic.
Yep.
Could be robot.
Yeah. Well, talking about ridiculous situations, so that we're not calling manholes anymore, right?
Oh, good Lord.
Let's talk about Berkeley, baby. Can we talk about Berkeley for a minute? I'm not so astonished that they went to a gender neutral type situation with the language in their municipal code. As much as the most stupidest thing that I heard last week was that they abolished natural gas as a form of power in any brand new building or brand new business. The cleanest power that you can have that we can get out of the ground or whatever.
What do you mean by that?
Because
Power for the building. I mean, power for the building. I think of electricity.
For cooking,
Oh.
or anything like that. They're no more natural gas going to any brand new housing or any. They're not going to have natural gas. You're not going to have a gas meter.
Just too much liability. What happens when it blows up?
Yep.
You have to sue the power company.
Yeah, exactly. You have to sue the power company. So, in their miraculous ways of doing things in Berkeley, which I can't believe that there's even a population in Berkeley anymore, but that's just the way it is, as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, listen, if you lived in Phoenix, you'd have an electric lawnmower, and you wouldn't be able to have a charcoal grill.
And your air conditioner's on 24/7.
Only for 9 months.
But it's ridiculous.
The other 4 months, it's only on 12 hours.
Where does this stop with this wokeness, man? I just don't get it, dude. I don't get it. I mean, there's something you're more woke on some stuff than I'm less woke on, and I'm more woke on stuff that you're not woke on. But I just don't get it, dude. I just don't get it. Why are we splitting? There's another 20 or 40 more cities that are actually looking at this proposal of not having gas, to their brand new homes. I mean, it's already a situation where you can't build a house in California without solar panels anymore.
Right. So why not have all the utility electric?
Why not? But electricity, California touts itself as having this green power, but they're buying power from other companies that are using coal to produce their power.
Well, it's just because they don't have enough solar yet.
In a way to make themselves seem that they're green. So it's a whole bullshit situation.
No, of course it is, and there's all that.
Well, that's what I mean. So
trading off of green credits.
So
if
we're gonna be
carbon.
Be woke, man, but don't bullshit about it, man, because I'm gonna call the fucking bullshit.
It's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, but the hypocrisy sucks, dude.
I think that's a good step.
You just can't lead the freaking people by the hand by hypocrisy, dude. It's just not. It's not.
No, you
right.
have to lead them by telling them what they have to do because they're sheep.
No.
Yes. Absolutely.
You let the sheep die.
How will we ever get rid of fossil fuels if we don't start getting rid of fossil fuels?
You let the free market prevail.
We'll all be dead first.
Because solar power.
We'll all be dead first.
Solar power. You didn't talk me into getting the solar panels. I wanted the solar panels. I wanted the solar panels because I wanted to stop freaking paying PG&E money for, and it didn't have anything to do with dirty power. I just wanted a self-sufficient power source. What I was just most
I'd say probably 8 out of 10 people. That's the reason.
And what I was most disappointed at was the fact that if electricity goes out, guess what? I don't have any power still. So now you tell me that I have to spend another $12,000 to get a battery backup and a generator to be able to have that sort of power when the power does go out. Now, with my luck, because I can change a sporting event from a win to a loss just by betting on the certain team. So when I buy that freaking UPS unit and when I buy that generator, guess what PG&E is going to do? They're going to freaking tax me or penalize me for having that and not being off the grid, or some city or some state or some county freaking regulation is going to tell me I can't do it.
Why?
Because I'm supposed to be connected up to their grid. It's happened before. There are people that are having these property disputes and having their properties
because of sanitary reasons.
Having their properties taken away from them because the city says that you have to be hooked up to the city utilities, whether that be sewer, whether that be electricity, whether it be water or whatever. What happened to freedom? What happened to that liberty of you being able to sink a well, be able to do your own sanitary?
If everybody on this block sunk a well, there'd be no water for anybody.
I understand that.
That's why you have to have city water.
I understand that, but
if everybody on this block had a septic system, you'd be up to your knees in shit.
But the electricity is a different problem. There's no need for this huge electricity company, dude. We're just doing this great big circle again. And the reason why that I did that was because I want to provide my own power.
Well, yeah, you want to provide your own power. You can still do that.
Yeah.
You can still do that.
But the problem is like I said, I can change a sporting event just by betting on it. The Giants were playing the worst team in the league tonight, and I bet on the Giants.
You still have to have
lose.
that wire coming down from PG&E to get your CO.
Why?
Because they have to make sure that your house is livable, not just for you, but for
No,
anybody who might come here.
No, bullshit. I
Yes.
don't give a shit whether they care about whether when they knock on the door and take my census, it's 4. When they say that I
Yeah.
have to have a line that comes to my house just so they can say that I'm okay, bullshit.
No.
No, bullshit.
Otherwise, it's
disagree.
unsanitary and you're endangering your neighbors.
Not
And I don't care how liberal you think you are.
Not having electricity does not make me any
Yes, it does.
cleaner. And no,
Yes, it does.
Does not. So we're going to have to agree to disagree on that because I don't believe it. I won't have it. I won't. There's if they took away that electricity and I had a generator and a battery backup and my 20 solar panels that I have here, I'm self-sufficient. Don't tell me how to live my life because
No,
I'm not hurting
you
you.
can still
I'm not
do
hurting
that.
You. I'm not hurting you
You
because
can
I don't
still
have the PG&E
do that,
line.
but you need to have that connection, or
They're
you don't
gonna-
get it, or you don't get a CO.
They're going to charge me for that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? I don't use it.
You
It's
have to have it.
bullshit. It's bullshit.
No, it's not.
It is. It's bullshit, dude.
It's part of living here.
No,
If
it's
you
not.
don't like it, listen. You have the right to go and move out to BLM land and live in a tent if you want to. But if you're going to live here, you're going to live by the rules here.
I understand.
Period.
I understand. I
That's all there is
understand
to
that
it.
Everybody's got rules.
Yeah. So
All
just
right.
accept them.
Dougie's fired now. This is Dougie's last show.
You wish.
My,
No, I'm just,
our listenership, all 6 listeners who could stop quit listening.
yeah, no. You know, because what happens if you stop paying your PG&E bill?
PG&E goes out of business.
No. Just you alone.
My electricity gets turned
yeah,
off.
they come pull your meter out and
Yeah.
put a plug in there.
Yeah.
And then they kick you out of your house then?
No. But if
So
you don't,
there you go.
no. But if you don't pay your kids' lunch bill, they want to send your kids to foster care.
Yes.
How do you like that?
I like that.
You like that?
You don't feed your kids, you shouldn't have them. Sorry.
Doug is like Bernie. People will die.
I'm telling you.
People will die.
Hey, listen, Bernie and I are alike, a lot alike. Okay.
Oh,
How many times have you heard me call myself a damn Yankee? Because that's what I am. That's what I am.
oh. Me and Dougie are having fun tonight.
No, it's true though. I mean, you know, if you want to live in society, you have to go by you have to follow society's rules. That's all there is to it.
Well, society's rules suck right now because
Yeah.
I think there's just too many damn rules and the government's too damn big. And when you tell me that I have to have that PG&E wire hooked up to my house when I can provide my own electricity and my own generator and my own UPS unit to be able to run this house, whether or not PG&E is hooked up or not, I think that's overstepping my liberty and my freedom to live the way that I want to. Now, whether that qualifies me to whether I get to live in California or not, whatever. But the situation remains is that that's something that we have lost. Now, when electricity first came around, it was convenience. It was an absolute, everybody can have electricity now. Okay. But that electricity at that time,
It was an improvement in life.
it was an improvement in life. Okay. Granted. Okay. Not everybody has electricity still in this, a lot
Yeah.
of people
Look at the
can't
North
afford it.
Koreans.
Yeah, plenty of electricity, always dark.
Only electricity in 2 cities. Anyway.
All right.
No,
Well,
listen, there's people in the Santa Cruz Mountains that live off grid.
I understand.
You know, there's people around here that live off grid.
Yeah, but they're being left alone for whatever reason. But being you cannot do that.
If you wanted to go off grid, you could go off grid here. But the only thing is I think you have to keep paying the connection fee.
Yeah, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Just like you have to pay your sewer fee, you have to pay your water fee, all that shit.
I pay every day.
Yeah.
Every day I pay taxes.
Yeah.
Taxes and everything.
Yeah.
So we're already getting paid. We're already getting taxed 100%.
Yep.
100% taxes on whatever you do. I don't think that there's one thing that you don't pay taxes on. So how they
Yeah.
can say these taxes got cut and all this and that and other things, and like we can do a full circle around here.
Hmm.
We pay other people's taxes. So
Yeah.
we're taxed 100%. Our income is taxed 100% because everything that you buy is taxed.
Yeah, every penny you
Hands
spend is
down.
taxed.
Every penny you spend is
Every
taxed.
penny you save is taxed when you spend
And
it.
it's very Californian.
Well, that's.
Speaking to be very
Hey, that's the way it
Californian,
is around the world, man. You know, a lot of places are taxed higher than we are. Go to Canada sometime.
there's some things that make you very Californian, and
It's
we're
like-
just gonna do.
You get a bill in Canada, and it has like 5 lines of taxes. Yeah, provincial tax,
There's a couple
state tax, government tax, federal tax.
There's a couple of stereotypes that I've been reading this out of this SF Gate, and there's some things that make you Californian, and we're going to look at the good and the bad stereotypes that it calls that make you uniquely Californian. The first step is an elementary level lesson is to understand the sharp contrast between Northern California and Southern California. And Northern California is more crunchy, and we don't wear bikinis to the beach. And with friends, and we are not friends with superficial Southern California. Going on, it says once we arrive in Northern California, you promptly register as a Democrat, cry over soaring housing costs, and then give the state half of your paycheck in taxes. And other things you need to become a Californian include master pronunciations for tricky local words like Go Street, Junipero, Deboche, Nix Frisco, San Fran, and Cali from your vocabulary. And don't forget to drop the from any freeway that's not the 101 or the 101. It's 101, and it's not the BART. Furthermore,
Or the Facebook.
or the Facebook. Also, stop calling soda pop like they do in the Midwest, the Pacific Northwest, or Coke. They do like that in the
Yeah,
South.
I love that. They call every soda a Coke. Give me an orange Coke.
And then stop drinking soda, opting for instead a fresh pressed juice at $16 a pop or kombucha. Michael. Buy a Prius and use it to visit all of California's natural wonders. And wander into the Folsom Street Fair by accident and then decide whether or not to make this an annual thing that you go to or avoid. Either way, get used to seeing naked people in public. Make yourself an earthquake kit and frequently worry about the San Andreas scenario, and then never make a big deal out of any earthquake that's less than magnitude 4.
Definitely. Don't even feel most of them. Feels like a door slamming.
My mother-in-law came over last night. She said, "Did you feel the rocker yesterday morning?" I'm like,
Huh?
No, there was something going on. It was, if it's not shaking
I
stuff,
might have been walking.
I might have been walking. Yeah. Learn the intricacies of the Bay Area microclimates and where to go during the summer if you want some sunshine. And also always carry a light jacket to be ready for the Carl of Fog. Appreciate the power of the cosmos, especially the significance of Mercury going into retrograde. Shake your head at out-of-state's attempts to use avocado and the prevalence of the avocado toast elsewhere. I had my first avocado toast this last week, and it was fucking great. It was an avocado and a piece of toast with salt and pepper on it. Cost me $3.75.
Yeah, I love that with the avocado shit and everything.
Yeah.
They don't have avocados in Japan. They don't make sushi with avocado in
I hear there's
Japan.
not much of avocados anywhere but California. In the Bay Area, this has been a thing for more than 130 years. Outside the Bay Area, it seems that avocado portions tend to be smaller, and the avocados are never as good. And also, if avocado hand is a common injury, we're not convinced that other states deserve avocados.
Oh, you got to watch out for bagel slices.
To be California, you have to jump on the Warriors bandwagon and pretend you've been there since the I Believe era. Which
Really?
is back in
I must have missed
1972.
that memo.
That was 1972. I was 12 years old. Accept the bagels we have and never eat bagels.
Touche. Almost the same goes with pizza.
Complain about the weather anytime it hits above 75 or dip below 60. and dress up in a costume at a festival parade in San Francisco at least 3 times a year because Halloween doesn't count. And that's just a couple of ways to be real Californian. And if you really want to be Californian, we got the Garlic Festival coming up this weekend, and internationally known.
If you can't smell it by now,
If you can't smell it by now, I can't wait not to be there. Fortunately, I am volunteering, so I will be there on Sunday, counting all the cash that people bring in and getting my hands dirty. And hopefully, I will not get sick with the flu this year as I did last year after the Garlic Festival. But it is going on this year, and come on down if you're going to be there. We got lots of stuff going on. Just look on the Facebook, go to events in Gilroy. You can find all kinds of music and happening things that are going on around here. It is getting to about that time to where we're going to be saying goodbye. But I wanted to let you guys know.
I'm not going.
I want to let you guys know that you can get me and Dougie every Thursday night on YouTube live. And if you just tune in at 7 o'clock or at 6:45, we usually go on the air, and you can get into the pre-show. We're going to probably keep talking after this show, or do some little extra content that you can get on Patreon.
Pre-show is where we talk about what we're going to talk about, and the post-show is where we talk about what we talked about. Pretty simple math.
And we would love you to be a contributor to the show. We appreciate you guys listening. Please share the show. Somebody go out there and hate us enough to go out and give us a bad review or something, because we need to get on the boards. We're still waiting for our first review. And a lot of people that like us, when you like something, you usually don't go unless I plead with you to go get a review. And I've done that with other podcasts and stuff. And I really don't go. I'll go make a review or something if I don't like you. So if you don't like me, go out and make a review. Give me something. Give Doug something. Give Doug some praise. Give him some good. Some of that, whatever. He loves me. I still love him too. But we could use a little support. It costs money to keep all this going. I hope you enjoy the show. We're here every Thursday, and I'll be coming up and doing another Liberty podcast here, probably on Saturday or Monday, one of the two. But you will have a Bruce for Liberty podcast coming back up. You can get us on the Weathered Soul Podcast.libsyn.com. You can go to iTunes. You can go to Google Play. You can go to Stitcher. Get us wherever you want to get us. And we are the Weathered Souls. Get off our grass. Say good night, Dougie.
Good night, Dougie. Happy Thursday.
Keep going.